And what if you could look at the clock in the sky and it revealed that time is running out? Imagine a woman who grew up in a traditional Jewish family, who faced death and returned with an urgent message for humanity. Get ready for a story that will capture your attention. My name is Rebecca Levy. I was born in Lisbon on an old street that houses the ruins of a 19th century synagogue. I grew up in a traditional Jewish home where prayer echoed daily, but faith manifested itself in a subtle way. My father used to say that God was like the light of dawn, always present, but hard to reach. My mother, with her contemplative gaze, believed that God resided in the silence of unspoken words. When I was a child, I used to imagine God as a majestic king, sitting on a throne in the clouds, listening to prayers rising like threads of gold. However, as time went by, that image began to fade away. And so I began my search. The more I looked, the stronger the feeling that something was wrong became. It was as if we had carefully adorned the frame, but the painting was missing, as if the shell was intact, but something vibrant and pulsating was hidden within, waiting for the right moment to germinate. In January 2021, I came across a verse that struck my soul like an invisible sword. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. These words penetrated me in a strange way, as if something deep within me had awakened, and I could no longer ignore them. Thus, I began to secretly participate in small mechanical study groups, meeting at night in discreet locations, where I would read in hiding and pray with words I never imagined I would have the courage to utter. My husband believed that I was confused. My children, in turn, felt fear, and the community around us seemed distant and indifferent. However, what burned inside me was not confusion, but an intense thirst, an ancestral spiritual hunger that no ritual could satisfy. That night, everything changed. It was summer, and the house rested in a deep silence. I found myself alone in the living room, kneeling on the carpet whispering a soft song. The open window allowed the night breeze to enter, bringing with it the sweet scent of ripe figs. I slowly leafed through an old book about the prophets. An intense and mysterious peace enveloped me, but at the same time, something deep within me began to stir. It was then that I withdrew into prayer. It wasn't something I did often, but that night, I felt the need to pray for Israel. It wasn't for political security, but rather for a spiritual revival, a deep longing to return to the living God. Every word resonated like a scream, and every sigh felt like an ancient pain being exorcised. Suddenly the pain emerged, a sharp stab in my chest. At first, I thought it was all just fatigue and stress. However, the pain began to rise up my neck and spread through my arm. My hands became cold and my vision blurred. I tried to scream, but only a weak sound escaped my lips. Then, I lost my balance and fell to the side. The last sound I heard, before everything turned to darkness, was the dull thud of my forehead hitting the ground. I felt only the dull impact of my fall, and then, the emptiness. But it wasn't a dark emptiness. It was a vibrant and pulsating void, a silence that resonated, as if I had left the physical world behind and awakened to a deeper reality. There was no fear. It was as if I were experiencing something unique, dying and being reborn simultaneously. I felt like I was crossing an invisible membrane that separated two worlds, and with a mixture of astonishment and wonder, I realized that the second one was more vivid and true than the first. I can't pinpoint how much time had passed. It could have been just a few minutes or, who knows, an eternity. When I finally opened my eyes, I realized that I was no longer at home. Around me, there were no walls, carpets, or ceiling, only an intense and enveloping light. Interestingly, it wasn't the light that touched me first. It was a deep certainty, an unwavering conviction that something sacred was about to be revealed. Something I had never had the courage to ask for, but that, deep down, I had always yearned for with all my being. I was no longer Rebecca, the mother, the wife, the Jew, torn between tradition and the search. I was just a soul, naked and alive, before the eternal. It was in that moment that my true vision began to reveal itself. I opened my eyes, but it wasn't a dream. I was floating in a luminous void, where every sound turned into a song, and each breath became a prayer. It was a place that seemed to transcend time, where, curiously, only time held dominion. Before me, floating in the air like a golden wheel of fire, an immense celestial clock was spinning. Instead of marking the hours, it revealed events. Each hand glided through eras and prophecies, and with every movement, a deep vibration echoed within me, as if resonating in my very essence. So, a magnificent being, wrapped in a cloak of light, approached, communicating without the need for words. But I heard clearly, as if it echoed directly in my mind. "Welcome, Rebecca. You have the privilege of seeing what many cannot. God's clock does not mark seconds, but rather signs. And the last of them has already manifested." At this moment, my vision became clearer. The clock spun in concentric circles, revealing images so vivid that they seemed to come to life, as if they had flesh and bones. I witnessed the birth of Israel in 1948, a flash of light that broke centuries of darkness. I also saw the collapse of the Twin Towers, the emergence of pandemics, and the unfolding of wars. All the images converged into a single point, as if drawn by an invisible hand. However, what truly broke my heart was the vision of a scene yet to come. A plane crash in India, scheduled for June 13, 2025. That was not just a tragedy. It was a dark omen that left me restless. It was a cry that echoed from the heavens. I witnessed souls detaching from their bodies. Some ascended like burning flames, while others descended like ethereal smoke. And then, I heard a voice resound. "The judgment begins in the house of God. All nations will be subjected to a rigorous scrutiny." The scene transformed before their eyes. A white bed stood out, and on it lay a pale man whose face resembled that of the late Pope. The cardinals, in a contained murmur, circled around him, while an angel hovered above, proclaiming in a firm voice, "The shepherd is wounded, and the flock will be scattered. However, a fire will arise from him. Those who have eyes, let them see." I raised my eyes. In the heart of the celestial clock, a word shone in incandescent letters. All the hands had stopped at a single point: Jaros beyond. The sacred city sparkled like a bride, but dark clouds were approaching, as invisible troops marched silently over its walls. The being of light fixed its gaze on me, and its voice resonated like a whispered thunder. "The book is closing. Do not wait for the next sign. The sky has already manifested. Time as we know it will cease to exist." And then I heard it. A colossal book floated among the clouds, closing silently. On each of its pages were recorded names, tears, prayers, and decisions. The last page, in turn, remained blank, but soon began to be filled with burning letters, as if they were being written in fire. "Get ready. Jesus is coming back." I tried to manifest myself, but I realized I had no mouth. I tried to run, but I realized I had no feet. It was then that I understood I was a spirit. In a spiritual dimension, I was about to witness something that would forever transform my view of life, my faith, and my understanding of the world. The being of light continued to observe me intently. With a gentle gesture, it raised its hand and declared, "Now I will reveal to you what the church has forgotten and what the world has chosen to ignore." Then, guided by a celestial clock, I was transported to a place where there was no solid ground or known coordinates. I felt as if I were on a plateau, situated between the visible and the invisible. In the center of this space, There was a pulse so intense that it seemed to have a life of its own. Israel was not just the land seen on school maps. It was not limited to the territory that newspapers used to report on, with its contradictions and borders as unstable as the sand of the desert. What I beheld was a transformed Jerusalem, adorned like a bride, yet with tears streaming down her face. Her walls pulsed like living veins, while an ancestral wind blew around her, the same wind that carried with it the words of Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah. And I listened. I recorded you in the palms of my hands. Above the city, a circular fire danced in the sky, like a crown of flames. In the hills around, shadows approached, spiritual armies marching from the north, the south, the east, and the west. They stood up. Treaties were broken, and deceptive alliances tried to disguise a peace that never existed. It was at that moment that I realized that Israel is not just a geographical issue, but rather a reflection of heaven. When Israel bleeds, prophecy cries out. The angel revealed to me visions so quick and intense that they seemed like lightning. I saw the foundation of the State of Israel in 1948, men dancing among the ruins and mothers crying, holding handmade flags. I witnessed the 6-Day War, the peace agreements being signed by trembling hands, and once again, the sirens sounded, the rockets streaked across the sky, and the prayers echoed off the wall day and night without stopping. Every image that unfolded before me was both an open wound and a resurrection. The angel asked me to look closely. In front of me, a glass table was surrounded by powerful men, all dressed in elegant inner garments. They had open letters in front of them and golden pens in their hands. Although they were discussing peace, their eyes conveyed a strange emptiness. Two peoples, two states, but on a spiritual level, I perceived hands tearing the mantle of God. A powerful voice, as intense as the sound of a trumpet, echoed, "Whoever touches my land, touches the apple of my eye." At that moment, a chilling sensation coursed through my blood. I watched a meeting of world leaders, all raising their hands in unison, deciding the fate of Jerusalem. It was then that suddenly the sky darkened, a thunder roared, and a powerful phrase echoed in the air, leaving an indelible mark at that moment. When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction will come upon them. At that moment, I understood that it was not just about geopolitics, but about a prophecy that was becoming reality. It was not a message intended for theologians, but rather for eyes that, by choice, preferred to remain blind. People were watching the news on the screens, but they weren't paying attention to the voice echoing behind them. It was then that the angel turned to me and said, "Many believe that the rapture is still far off. But I assure you, when Israel is surrounded and the world cries out for peace without God, they will know that time has run out." At that moment, I spotted a group of women gathered, praying by the wall. One of them, surprisingly, looked like me, as if she were me in a distant past. With her hands outstretched, she was crying, as if she were trying to reach for something that the world had forgotten. In that cry, I could feel the essence of the Father's heart. It was not anger, but a call. It was not condemnation, but grace knocking at the door one last time. The vision began to fade, and the plateau dissolved like mist, while a phrase became forever etched in my memory. Israel is the beating heart. Never forget that. When Israel trembles, the sky manifests. In the blink of an eye, I left Jerusalem and was transported to a place that was not on any map, but that I instantly recognized in my mind. It wasn't exactly the future, but rather the present observed from a celestial perspective. The atmosphere was distinct, dense, and complex, pulsating with a unique energy. Everything seemed to converge towards a single destination, the throne of man. Before her eyes, a city unfolded, filled with glass skyscrapers and bright screens everywhere. Thousands of people walked by, their eyes glued to their devices, oblivious to what was happening around them and not exchanging a word with one another. At first glance, it seemed like a sign of progress, a demonstration of order. However, beneath that impeccable surface lay a chilling emptiness, an abyss disguised as efficiency. The angel beside me raised its arm, and a kind of veil was lifted from the scene. What was once hidden was now revealing itself before me. Around me, a futuristic city unfolded. Glass buildings shimmered in the light, drones buzzed in the sky, and everything seemed impeccably organized. However, this order was as cold as a tomb. Each building revealed a hidden symbol, a digital mark that I could decipher. Everyone around me was traceable, each one identified by unique biometric codes. They were all interconnected, under constant surveillance and control, but surprisingly, no one seemed to notice. The angel whispered beside me, "Look at what they have done to freedom. They traded it for convenience." At that moment, I spotted a family gathered around the table. The father, with a simple gesture, was making payments using a chip implanted under his skin. The mother was receiving real-time nutritional alerts, while the son smiled at a screen displaying messages of equality and world peace. However, behind these optimistic slogans, I could perceive dark faces, spiritual beings hidden in the power center. They did not scream, they only whispered, and in this way, they exerted their control. Soon, I was led to a vast conference room covered by a glass dome. The environment resembled a nameless metropolis, or perhaps the fusion of all metropolises into one. In the center of the room, a chair remained empty, waiting. Around him, political leaders, religious figures, and experts in health and technology were debating intensely, as if they were in a collective trance. There was something being prepared, and I realized it immediately. That chair was reserved for someone special, the man of destruction. I couldn't see his face, but the shadow he cast was unmistakable. There was a dark charisma that emanated from him, an irresistibly seductive presence, yet at the same time lethal. He didn't need to raise his voice to exert his control. His speech, sweet as honey, concealed a deadly poison. Before moving on, just one request. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot to keep going. People applauded him, but without understanding the reason. Some bowed in reverence, while others, almost automatically, signed contracts and surrendered their wills to him. Everyone accepted him, for he offered what the world craved the most: order, security, and unity. These were the pillars that stood out. Next, I began to observe the churches. Some were completely deserted, while others, from the outside, seemed vibrant and overcrowded. However, upon closer inspection, I realized that they were empty inside. The gospel, which should have been the essence, had been replaced by motivational speeches and sweet, yet ambiguous phrases. Before we continue, just one request. Please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us keep going. Dressed in gold, the Vipastors stood out, but their dull, lifeless eyes revealed a deep sadness. Above them, inscriptions invisible to human eyes denounced an alarming truth. The fear of the Lord no longer dwells here. It was then that a digital altar emerged, bringing with it a new era of challenges and reflections. A man was addressing a crowd, captivating everyone's attention. But curiously, he never mentioned the name of Jesus. His words were filled with love, tolerance, and the pursuit of unity among religions. Beside him, a blend of symbols, the cross, the star, the crescent, and the eye, seemed to give life to a new global religion, a vision that transcended traditional barriers. Above him, a hologram shone, revealing a single message: one faith, one world. I felt an immense urge to scream, but the angel stopped me with a firm gesture. "It's not the time yet," he said. You need to observe everything first. Then, you can speak." The vision became clearer and deeper. The hidden infrastructure of the current system was revealed. Digital central banks, biometric systems, access to healthcare through encrypted codes, tracking of movements, and surveillance of words. It was not a distant prediction. It was the present disguised as the future. It was then that I understood, with an intense pain, as if a blade were piercing my chest. The system already exists. It is already implemented and functioning. There was only one piece missing to achieve total domination: the king. However, he also spotted a light of hope, intense and vibrant, that nothing could extinguish. It was a small group of men and women, with their hands raised, symbolizing resistance and determination. They were few, almost invisible, and they did not let themselves be swayed by the trends of the world. They did not wear badges, nor did they care to flaunt anything. However, there was a burning flame in their eyes, a passion that no system could extinguish. The angel by my side fixed his gaze on them and declared, "They are the remnant. They are the ones who still keep the darkness under control." However, this situation will not last much longer. Upon waking from that vision, my heart burned with flames. The same phrase echoed incessantly in my mind, like the rhythm of a drum. The world needs to prepare to face the Antichrist. Soon, a new vision unfolded before me. Although I was not transported to a physical place, my mind seemed to travel across continents, guided by an invisible current that swept me along. All around, a terrifying and constant sound echoed. It was the moan of creation. It was not a human voice, but a deep and spiritual cry, akin to that of a woman in labor, struggling against the pains and the flow of blood. The oceans roared, the mountains split apart, and the winds howled like tormented souls. Every tree, every stone, and every drop of water seemed to pulse with a growing tension. It was then that the angel made his proclamation. The moment of birth was approaching. The entire world is permeated by the presence of its creator. Before me, a world map unfolded, but it was not made up of borders or country names. It was like a pulsating and wounded canvas, filled with scars and open sores. All of them throbbed with pain, crying out in unison, "Enough, sir! Come save us!" But the vision did not stop there. Dogs, awakening from their millennia-long slumber, began to howl, while storms took on impossible shapes, as if ancient spirits were coming to life in the belly of the clouds. The rivers were stained red, while marine creatures lay scattered, inert, along the beaches. The sky, in broad daylight, plunged into an unsettling darkness. Lightning sliced through the horizon, bringing with it names, warnings, and destinies. People, alarmed, raised their eyes to the sky, but soon looked away, seeking comfort in technology, science, and the empty promises of false prophets. They said it was just nature, that it was just the climate, that all of it was normal. But they did not realize that behind every phenomenon, there was a hand knocking at the door, a God who does not remain silent, a heaven that cries out incessantly. It was then that I was elevated to a higher level, not towards the blue sky, but to a prophetic dimension. In the vast firmament, where God inscribes his signs, a deep red moon stood out, surrounded by 7 stars so bright that they seemed to overshadow even the sun. Each of these stars symbolized a crucial moment, a time destined to come to fruition. And then, a voice resonated, echoing through space. The trumpets sound, but not everyone will hear them. As the clips traverse ancient nations, comets streak across the sky, drawing lines of judgment. Lights dance like angels among the clouds, outlining the delicate boundary between grace and judgment. Nothing happened by chance. Each event followed a clear and well-defined sequence, a trajectory foreseen since eternity. So, the most terrifying scene occurred. The sky opened up like a torn curtain, and for a brief moment, A light so intense burst forth that it was impossible to look directly at it. It was as if the dawn of eternity was revealing itself, but at the same time, it carried with it the weight of judgment. Everything around stopped. The stars seemed to hold their breath, and a powerful voice, as immense as the waters, echoed through space. When you see this beginning, lift your heads, for salvation is near. However, no one looked up. No one raised their head. Everyone was seeking shelter and control, but not understanding. It was not a struggle for survival, but rather a struggle to awaken. I returned to the land in spirit, and as I looked at the sky, I saw a cross of light emerge. No one announced it. It simply appeared. No news agency mentioned it, but it stood out, clear and visible. Only a few caught sight of her. Those who saw her fell to their knees in the streets, on the rooftops, and in the fields, crying and praying. Not for blessings, but for forgiveness. The angel decided to leave one last message before the conclusion of the vision. The earth cries out, and life manifests, but the true answer comes from the human heart. Let him who has ears hear. Then, everything was enveloped in darkness. It was not an empty darkness, but rather dense and full of meaning, like the silence of a violin about to reveal its last and clearest note. Inside me, it was as if a trumpet had sounded, calling me to vigilance and awareness. It was not a metaphor or a simple image. It was something tangible, a reality that was already unfolding. And after the whisper of the stars, the sky did not become an emptiness. On the contrary, it filled with an intense presence, laden with reverence, like a violin about to reveal the final and definitive truth. My spirit rose again, but this time, I did not witness catastrophes, armies, or flames devouring the sky. Instead, I saw faces, hands, and knees bent in prayer. There was a simplicity in the expressions that radiated an intense light. The angel remained silent, and I didn't need words to understand. It was as if a window opened, revealing the deepest secrets of the earth, a small remnant. They were not famous figures. They did not occupy pulpits or cathedrals, and they did not attract curious gazes. However, they were never forgotten by the heavens. I observed elderly people with worn Bibles resting in their laps. I saw children, wrapped in blankets, saying their prayers, while in the next room, their parents were engaged in discussions, always concerned about paying attention to them. I saw young people with tears in their eyes, raising their hands to a sky that seemed to be ignored by the world. In a room shrouded in shadows, I spotted a solitary woman, her figure gently bathed in the dim light of a candle. Her voice, crystal clear like the flow of a river, echoed incessantly 3 words: "Come, Lord Jesus." With each repetition, her determination seemed to grow stronger, until suddenly, the light of her faith illuminated the entire environment around her. So, I realized that she was not alone. In various corners of the planet, in modest homes, hidden basements, and underground churches, I found hearts beating in unison. They were all connected by an invisible web of prayer and love, forming a true swarm of solidarity and hope. It was not just any chain, it was a chain of light. Under the shade of a tree, I saw men kneeling, immersed in a deep silence. Above them, a golden dove floated, as if guarding that sacred moment. So, I heard a voice resonate. "Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am." It was not an isolated scene, but a vibrant network of worship and spiritual commitment. I witnessed dark basements, cold garages, and modest kitchens, without any elaborate structure or grand music. It was just the gospel in its essence, genuine communion, and the tears that purify the soul. While the world was enchanted by megastructures, grand stages, and vibrant lights, heaven looked upon those small fires lit in the darkness and was moved by them. The angel revealed to me, "They do not seek fame, but rather the face of God. They do not desire blessings, but yearn for the giver. They do not await the end out of fear, but out of love, for they know that Jesus is near. Adjust your lamps. I observed a young woman who, upon turning off her cell phone, dedicated herself to opening the Bible. I saw a mother who, after turning off the television, sat down with her son to teach him the Psalms. I also witnessed a man who, after closing social media, knelt in silence every night. It was not a public display, but an intimate and secret offering, akin to a drop of oil poured over the head of the Messiah. I could also perceive the final contrast. On one side, 2 rows of people, those who kept their lamps lit. On the other side were those who allowed their lights to go out. The first row displayed steady torches, shining brightly even in the darkness of the night. The second, in turn, mocked and laughed, claiming that there was still time. However, when the midnight bell rang, only one of the lines moved toward the door. Then I realized that this awakening was not a spectacle, but rather a clear separation. The wheat was separated from the chaff. The bride prepared to meet the groom. It was not a crowd, nor an army. It was a small flock, but it carried within it the power of the Spirit. The angel fixed his gaze on me and declared, "They do not shine for themselves. They shine to illuminate the way, for the night is dark. However, the King is on his way, and hearts are already feeling his presence." At that moment, tears began to slide down my face, not from pain, but from hope. After so many visions of lost causes and disappointments, I had finally glimpsed the hidden beauty of the body of Christ. Not in palaces, but in deserts. Not amidst crowds, but on our knees. Not in titles, but in hearts that surrender. It was in this way that I understood. The rapture will not be destined for those who accomplished great deeds, but rather for those who loved intensely and were deeply loved in return. It was as if I were falling from an endless height, not out of fear, but out of a deep reverence. I left eternity behind and returned to time, feeling my soul return to my body like a river finding its bed again. The visions faded, but the echo of that experience remained etched in my flesh, like an invisible mark. With every beat of my heart, a single command echoed in my mind: "Speak. Do not remain silent." When I finally opened my eyes, I found myself in a hospital bed, surrounded by a soft light. The sound of monitors and the muffled voices of doctors filled the room. It was then that I felt a hand holding mine. It was my son's hand. Tears were streaming down my face, without me knowing exactly why. I had already heard from the doctors that my heart had stopped for a few minutes, and I knew that, for science, I was dead. However, for me, death was not the end. I hadn't returned just to survive. I came back with a mission. In the weeks that followed, everything around me felt strange and different. I was still alive, but I was definitely no longer the same. A feeling of spiritual sleep hung over the cities, like a dense and oppressive fog. I moved forward, but I realized that the fire I had witnessed in my visions did not burn there. I walked through the streets of Milan, and with each step, it became impossible to silence the cries of the earth and the whisper of the sky. I could no longer hide the truth. The trumpet had sounded, and I could not ignore it. When I began to recount the experiences we lived, many doubted me. Some labeled me a fanatic, others called me crazy. However, there were those who were moved, who knelt in prayer. Many began to seek the light even before dawn, opening the scriptures with an insatiable thirst for truth. I did not return to convince, but to warn. The message I received echoes like a living flame burning deep within my being. Time has run out. The final signal has sounded. Israel has returned to its center, while the world establishes the throne of man. The earth groans, the sky manifests, and the church divides between those who sleep and those who awaken, between those who pretend and those who truly love. The rapture is not for the curious, but for those who are prepared. The King will not hesitate. Do not wait for another sign, for there will be no more. My heart is no longer the same. I wake up every morning as if it were the last, and go to bed every night with the certainty that Jesus could return while I rest. I don't know the exact day, but I feel that we are at the door. The final cry has already been made, and only a few, very few, can hear it. I am a simple woman, born into a modest home. I grew up immersed in the Torah and was shaped by ancient stories. Today, however, I carry within me the mark of the fire of the Messiah, which my people still do not recognize. I have not seen him with my eyes, but I have known his essence with my soul. And I can affirm, with all my strength, he is real, he is near, and he is knocking at the door. If you have made it this far and read or heard these words, I implore you, do not wait until the last minute. Do not live as if tomorrow is guaranteed. Do not postpone your yes. Reflect, forgive, love. Be vigilant and keep the oil in your lamp, for the night is long and dawn is approaching. And I do not say this merely as a metaphor, but as the glorious manifestation of the Son of God. I, Rebecca, am a living witness to this. To those who have ears to hear, I say, wake up, our Lord will come soon. If you have stayed with me until the end, it is because something has deeply touched your heart. Therefore, I invite you to take a small step. A simple step, but one that can transform everything forever. May the Lord bless you and guide you in all truth, always. What an incredible and transformative story. The Bible brings us a powerful message in Romans chapter 13, verse 11, and I share this with you. It is essential that we recognize the time in which we live. It is time for us to awaken from sleep, for our salvation is nearer now than when we first began our journey of faith. I am immensely grateful, Rebecca, for gifting us with this intense and necessary experience. And to you who have accompanied us thus far, may the blessings of heaven illuminate your life. Keep your lamp lit and your heart attentive. Do not wait for another sign. We will meet in the next video.